Thank you so much, Jamila. It's a pleasure to host such an amazing set of panelists today. Each one extremely accomplished in the areas that they have been working on for the last multiple years. I think I was just counting. I think between the panelists, there's more than 100 years of experience. Um, so it's really a pleasure to host each one of you. So what we'll do is I'll start with a small icebreaker session where I go around this group and ask them some informal questions to start with, and then we can discuss the actual topic that we are getting to today. Munay, I will start with you. You had a very interesting career, and I saw that you started as a research scientist in Australia's National Science Agency. You went on to become the Chief Technology Officer at Avaya. And in the last 9 years, you've been leading most of the product marketing on the cloud side for VMware. You're looking at security, looking at edge computing. Can there be more buzzwords in your resume? So what is... So Munay, can you just describe how it was, your journey from the university days to research to being the CTO of Avaya, and now, almost leading the cutting edge of technology in one of the leading software firms in the world?
Thanks, Siddhant, and thanks for the first pleasure being here, and thanks for that kind of putting me in an awkward spot straight away. But that's all panels are about. No, it has been an interesting journey, and I think what has always been kept me moving is curiosity. So I'm very curious and innovation. So I think the first one of CSIRO, if you actually look up, then I was part of the innovation and the filing of the patent called wireless LAN. So if you look up the history of wireless LAN, that was actually invented out of our labs in CSIRO back in the late 90s. So I was part of that group. So that was, today the usage of wireless is so prolific that, that was the innovation for me. The second part, evolution from there to Avaya, was again, innovation, curiosity to very early days of unified communications and contact center, all of that blending together. And that was early days as how challenging is it to kind of bring that to market? Spent a long time kind of doing that. And then the last 9.5 years at VMware, I was tasked when I joined VMware to create something for VMware beyond the hypervisor vSphere. So I was part of the team which coined and took to market software-defined data center. And then I established all our partnerships with folks like Microsoft, Amazon, Google for multi-cloud. And as of this year, again, innovation, I believe that as all of us have started working from home remotely, the next push is workloads, activities moving towards the edge. So as employees first move to the edge, now, everything, the workloads and applications are moving to the edge. So that's kind of the next frontier for innovation and curiosity. So I'm always driven by that. So enjoyed the journey.
Great. Thank you, Munay, and pleasure to have you on the panel. Really look forward to your thoughts on today. Claudia, you spent more than 20 years in the tech business, right? And all the names that we would ever aspire to be associated with, you've been there and done that, right? You've been with Amazon, you've been with Microsoft, you've been with Motorola, you've been with Oracle, and now you're with Facebook. I need to catch my breath. So, Claudia, and right now you're doing something very exciting, right? You're looking at the Facebook Reality Labs as the head of future of work partnerships. That sounds pretty exciting and very pertinent to what we are going to discuss today. But before that, what do you think has been the most exciting part of this really wonderful career journey that you've had?
Yes. So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be part of this panel and this discussion, because it is so relevant to what's going on today in the world. I have been involved with some pretty amazing technologies and brands. And I sort of always sought to find myself in roles in my career in technology where I was working with products that were helping people improve their lives. And so, yes, you mentioned, I was involved with the original Palm Pilot, which is one you didn't mention. I actually launched the Palm Pilot outside of the United States as one of my first roles in technology. I was at Motorola when we launched the Motorola Razr. Amazon with the Kindle e-reader. I could go on and on. I guess I've been very lucky to be part of these incredible technologies, innovation. But I think, frankly, where I find myself today is probably the most exciting time in my career. I don't think anyone could have predicted how a pandemic and how it would affect us in working. And as before the pandemic, I was working on partnerships for Portal, which is a device that is designed for video calling for consumers to bring people closer together, even when they're far apart. And when the pandemic happened and we all found ourselves working from home, as Facebook employs thousands and thousands of people trying to remain productive and collaborative and connected, it was very difficult to do. We didn't really have the tools at home necessarily to stay connected, and Portal became essential as a work tool. And our company, Facebook, enabled all of our employees to have one at home, and we're using it now. In fact, I'm speaking to you on a Portal. My team worked to bring all of the leading video calling technologies. We have many representatives here from the technologies that we support: BlueJeans, Zoom, Cisco WebEx, and as of yesterday, even Microsoft Teams, which I'm very proud to announce. It really has become an essential work tool. And for me, this is really the best place to be at this time, is to try and help solve these very complex problems as we're dealing with, remote work, hybrid work, and all of these new use cases that we didn't know about 2 years ago.
Excellent, Claudia. Great to have you on the panel, and good work with timing the team's partnership. Otherwise, they would have had something to say about it. Great. Perfect. Coming to you, Dave. Dave, you were almost the first employee of Microsoft in Canada. You're one of the very few people on this planet who can say that they were closely associated with Bill. You've gone on to experiment with your own venture. You've gone on to, interesting career options like Interior Lifestyle Network, etc. You come back to Microsoft and are now heading, which is, definitely one of the fastest growing businesses that they have, and that is Teams. And that's why I mentioned what I did to Claudia. So, so this interesting 30-year journey that you had, very diverse one, and we're glad to have you here. What has been your biggest motivation? And if you could share some of maybe one exciting anecdote from this journey, that will be really good.
Okay, absolutely. A pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And like Claudia and Monet before, I have been blessed to be able to participate in some of these breakthroughs that have changed our lives. Like Monet, I'm driven by curiosity and really a drive to help this technology, as Claudia said, to make lives better. What got me into computing in the first place was an accident. And that was, I had very narrow sinus cavities, and I wanted to be like Jacques Cousteau and scuba dive and dive with the whales. And I learned with narrow sinus cavities, I'd be signing up for either a desk job or a life of extreme pain. And so I switched my major to computer science. And at the University of Manitoba, I saw them working with technology to help people with temporary or permanent disabilities. And I thought, wait a minute, these computers aren't just going to be better calculators, faster calculators, they're going to change people's lives. And that got me hooked from the beginning. And that still has me hooked today. And I remember when COVID hit, how we were getting phone calls on the Teams engineering team from around the world saying, we need you to light up 1 million students in our country this week. And then the next call, we need you to light up 2 million students in our country this week. When I joined Teams Engineering, we were around 10 million worldwide users. We're over 250 million now. So wow. 250 million people came on, and we went from 1 to 2 billion minutes of meetings every month to 11 billion a day. It was just a crazy ride. So from the early days of technology to now, the opportunity has been to surf the wave that's come up. Sometimes you can see it coming. Sometimes it hits you from behind, and you just better get on that board and catch that wave before it goes. But at the root of it all, the passion, the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is helping customers and helping people leverage this technology. And I'll give you a quick little personal example. And this actually is going to be a nod to Claudia. because the portal was the device that let us communicate with my mother-in-law up in Canada. She's in her mid-80s, and she was finding even an iPad too complex to work. And so we needed to find a device that would not have us looking at this part of her face the whole call, because she would hold it too close, and would also let her have one touch join, and that was the last thing she had to do for that call. And the portal was the one we ended up using for that call. So grateful that you're now supporting Teams, and really grateful for the ability it gave us to communicate with my mother-in-law back up in Canada, since we couldn't get up to see her now for 2 years. So technology is continuing to change lives, and it's a joy to be here with you all.
Thank you, Dave. What an amazing story and career that you had. And thank you for sharing that with us. We look forward to more such insights going forward. Mahabaleshwar, great to have you here. You have had a diverse career. You started off with PACE, looking at the research part of it, doing the engineering, right from the set-top box to video streaming. You experimented and dabbled with your own startup. You went to B school. Now you're, one of the key players from the product management perspective of Blue Jeans. What would you say would be, the top 2 learnings that you would like to share with us today?
Hey, thanks, Siddhant. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this esteemed panel today. Good morning, everyone. Coming back to the question, the learnings that I would like to share. First thing that comes to my mind is user. User is the core of anything we do as like a founder of a startup or a product manager building the products. So it's important for us to keep users at the core of our business. Think about who they are, what their needs are, how can we address those. Some of the examples quoted today in the discussion is about the user, like the mother-in-law, right? Like the user, their needs, how do we solve the problem, and so on. So it's very important for us as founder of a startup or like as a product manager to be focusing on the user. Interestingly, that's also relevant for the topic we're going to be discussing today. As people responsible for, say, workplace strategy, it's important for us to focus on our employees, their needs, what they're looking for, how it has evolved, and devise a strategy to address those. So that's the first learning, like importance of focusing on user that comes to my mind. And the second one, if I have to quote, is about reinventing yourself at every step of your career. Again, if I have to share an anecdote, as a founder of a startup, we started off to solve a problem, and we very soon realized that people were not willing to pay for that solution, and we had to change the course, use the money that we had raised, and build a different product altogether for the same user base. So basically reinventing ourselves in the mid course to kind of solve problems for our customers. That's not just true as a founder of a startup, but also as a product manager. Like again, to quote an example, recent example of days pre-COVID, where the video meetings platforms were built to focus around office experience, like in-office experience. All the innovations were happening to satisfy the needs of the people within the office. Work from home was not like a major use case, but as soon as this massive experimentation happened all over the world, like people started working from home, our innovation shifted from in-office, in meeting room experience to in-home experience, be it like coming up with a new devices just for in a home meeting experience or the desktop experience. So it's reinventing yourself in the business as an individual, and that's also very much relevant for again the topic that we're going to be discussing today. As people responsible for this workplace strategy, how can we kind of focus on what is important and how we can adopt the new technologies that are coming up in the marketplace to solve problems for our employees.
Great. Thank you. That was very insightful, Mahabaleshwar. I'll call you MB going forward.
That's fine.
Yes, thank you. Frederick, you've been, for about 2 decades, you've been working with Amadeus. We all know Amadeus to be, the world's premier a travel enabling company. You've started out by working on their product, but most interestingly, you actually moved to helping them connect the teams, their digital workplace solutions, even before the pandemic. Did you ever imagine what would have happened in the last 1.5, 2 years? I'm sure you didn't, but just talk to us a little bit on what has been the most exciting part of this journey, maybe some interesting experiences, especially in the last couple of years.
Thanks, Siddhant. So very pleased to be part of this panelist. Perhaps I'm going to sound a little bit cliche, but to me, what stick me, if I can say that, to Amadeus is people. Actually, being surrounded by so many talented people that are daily reinventing, transforming a whole industry, actually is super exciting. And at the same time, it's also the enriching aspect of the journey. Being confronted with all these people, all these different, this diversity, not only nationality, genders, and so on, but really this diversity helped me to be to have more humility, to be more humble, to have more empathy, and to understand that there is not only one way to change things, and that it's by mixing all these different views, by mixing all these different aspects, that you are starting to have a team which is really a game changer. So actually, your question was funny on whether we were seeing the pandemic coming or the work from home coming, but actually just before the pandemic, beginning of February, we were explaining our vision to our executive committee, and the vision was working from anywhere. And it was mainly a vision to help us in our day-to-day life and to help our employee and in their day-to-day life. And then 1 month after, we've been said, okay, guys, in 1 week from now, you need to have 20,000 people working from home. So do whatever is needed, but we have to do it. And the team, and again, we are talking about people. The team that I have the honor to lead, actually, they were mind blowing. They just did it, organizing by themselves. And in 1 week, they managed to have everybody on board, which helped dramatically the business side and helped our customer to ensure, this was the time all these flights were disrupted. The airlines needed to reschedule people, to move them from one plane to another one. And thanks to all these people helping the airlines working from home, I mean, things were a little bit better. So to me, if I can summarize, it's people. And I think that in what we are talking today, the main point is people. It's probably not where you are working, the location, whatever, it's people in the end.
Great. Thank you, Fred. I think look forward to hearing more such war stories as we proceed. Thank you very much. Great. So I'll now move on to where we ask some more pertinent, more questions which are more oriented towards the topic today. I'll maybe start with Dave. Dave, as we've seen, companies have adopted different methods, and we just discussed a few of them across this panel round. Virtual workspaces, co-working spaces, etc. Where do you think the future of work is heading, or how do you see it evolving, Dave? So Rishi, you have been at Harman for more than 7 years. Overall, you've had a very great stint across different technology firms, etc. You led different tech engagements across areas and different types of customers. Would you like to share with us what are some of the learnings that you've had across these years, which will help you and Harman, shape the future of digital and digital working going forward?
Sure. Thanks for having me on this panel list, and thanks, Dave, for reminding Siddhant that he has missed me. So this is very much relevant in these times, basically, right? So the change in technology, as Dave also pointed out, is inevitable. it is happening at a faster rate these days. You can all see that, every quarter you see all the tech companies are launching newer products, newer version of their existing products, right? So, people need to be curious and look out for better solution, how we can change the life of, the users who are using those products, So that's the first learning. I can remember, when we were developing the first VR solution for one of the service provider in US, at that moment, we were using cardboard and 4K, cameras basically. Jitter and latency was the main issue at 5 years back, so we were not able to get that project kicked off. But now, if you look into it with Edge and a lot of, cloud-related enhancements which has been done in the technological areas, basically, we are building similar kind of solution for, people who are living with autism and, similar kind of things, basically, right? So I would say, staying put with the efforts and remaining focused would help, anyone and everyone to excel in this specific area. We started with web first kind of application models, then we moved on to mobile first, and then cloud first came into picture to optimize the capex and other things. Basically, now we are talking about flexible first, right? Which is creating cloud-enabled solutions which are driven by collaboration tools like Teams or others. So that will help put everything together and see multiple applications which are being used in enterprise environment by our employees, basically, in a more efficient manner, and that would drive a lot of productivity improvements and intelligent automation, low-code, no-code kind of platforms like Power Apps or App Sheets. Those will be the things basically which would be hand of the citizen developers to bring about transformation, business transformation in coming months and coming years, I would say. Another aspect related to the learning is build diversified teams. Basically, once you do that, you'll see innovation kicking into your products and your mindset, basically, right? And that will drive a lot of business outcomes, which will help the industry to be relevant and organization to be at the forefront, basically. So these are the few learnings. We practice all these aspects in Harman DTS to transform lives, and those similar kind of learnings can be imbibed across the board by different organizations to excel.
Great. Thank you, Rishi. Look forward to hearing about more of such interesting ways as to how you've been helping customers across the board as we move forward. Yes, back to you, Dave. Future of work, how do you see it evolving?
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to acknowledge that we have done some work with Harman with some customers to help them adjust to this new future of work. And with a large global airline, so we ended up having to help them plan to deploy planes in new ways and communicate around the flight and everything that was going on there. We did some great innovative work together. And so the key became not just people on site in an office, but even which people are at an airport. And can I all of a sudden bring in people from another airport to help support a flight? Because we're working in some cases with reduced staffing, et cetera. So as we look at new technologies, we're breaking it down in all areas: technology in the home, technology at the office. Pretty staggering, a stat that I saw recently that surprised me, and I live in technology every day. We think about meeting rooms, and there are apparently, according to a company called Frost & Sullivan, 90 million meeting rooms worldwide. 7.8% of them have video. Only 7.8% today. I mean, that's staggering. And yet here we are, we're all on video. We're all coming in from homes, from offices, from different places, from around the globe. We actually don't know where each person is. And you can't tell by an accent even where that person is. So it's becoming a way for us to enable technology. It used to be prohibitive to do so. You'd have to spend $100,000, $200,000 or more to outfit a room. And now for the cost of a PC, you can outfit a room with video, audio, sound, and these are special devices. I don't mean just bringing your PC into the room. I mean a collaboration bar, a Teams room device that lets you have great camera, great sound, and an inclusive experience. So what we're seeing is the world has gone hybrid. It will stay hybrid. And what we need to do is accommodate people in these different hybrid work environments, whether it's some people in, some people out. Used to be the person outside of the room was at an incredible disadvantage. After the last 2 years, they were now recognized almost as an equal in that meeting space. And how do we make sure we don't go back and lose that and keep everybody engaged in the meeting and keep everybody participating and everybody able to see everything and collaborate together? So we're seeing a lot of innovation around work and the flow of work before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting. So we're bringing in apps into the meeting space, right into the meeting canvas, et cetera. It's fascinating to watch this evolve. And we'll talk more about that as we go forward today. But I just wanted to point out that when we often think, oh, we have video, well, 7.8%, that means over 90% don't. And so we've got some work to do to really improve things for everybody to be equal in this new hybrid work environment.
Great, excellent, Dave. You're making it harder for us to get back to office.
or better for you, so you can go when you want to.
True, Dave. Absolutely. Claudia, from your experience and from how you are looking at things, where do you see the future taking us?
Yes. So first of all, I completely agree with Dave. And I think we all agree that this new normal is a hybrid model. We're never going back to the old normal, whatever. It's like, it's really past behind us and we need to focus on the future. That's incredibly clear. I also agree with Dave. I think it's really interesting to see the dynamics now in terms of how people are working. And people, to me, are at the center of really the problems that we need to solve. So even with what Fred was saying, like, it's all about people. And I'll touch on that in a moment. But, at Facebook, we're very well equipped with video conferencing and lots of conference rooms around the world. And recently we allowed some employees to go back to the office. And I had a colleague who went back to the office to attend a meeting with 50 people, and 49 were at home and 1 was in the office. And he actually went to the office, plugged in, connected to the video conference, and then decided 5 minutes later to drive home, because he had better tools at home on his, whatever he was using, whether Portal or the laptop, to be able to join and interact and communicate during this very large, very important meeting than he did in a conference room. So we really have to think about the fact that there is a new way of working and that we need to balance how we provide people the right tools. And I think at FRL, we think about it in terms of what we say is a sense of presence. I think that's the key in terms of putting people at the center of the experience. In virtual reality, I've talked a lot about Portal. In virtual reality, it's we have the technology to be able to put you remotely into a collaborative environment. The immersive experience is there today. The challenge really is how you can make that experience more authentic and more, genuine, where you truly, as you put your virtual reality headset on and you join a meeting, how are you feeling like you're sitting next to the person you're talking to? Are you interacting with them in that genuine, authentic way? Is that a rewarding experience, or does it make you tired? After 1 hour that you have the headset on and you're in a meeting, are you feeling exhausted? Because, it doesn't feel natural to you. So I think the key here is to think about the fact that it's not just enough to enable the infrastructure and the tools. It's really important to think about that experience, that user experience that brings this new level of collaboration and communication and supports this new normal, this hybrid way of working, and maybe even does better than the way it was before. I think that's the key.
Great. Thank you so much, Claudia, for that. Moving on to my next question, and I think I'll try and pick MB's brains for this one. So on the technology side, MB, what are the kind of different strategies and technologies that you seem to be adopting to make this workplace, like Claudia and Dave said, the new hybrid workspace a lot more collaborative and safe, and also more welcoming for the employees?
Yeah, a great question. So I completely agree with what Dave and Claudia said about everything being hybrid going forward. Companies are not anyway going back to the old model of being in office for their work. So hybrid is the new normal. But one thing to note here is not all the companies are the same. Every company has different strategies around what their hybrid definition looks like. Talking about the strategies that we have seen being in the video conferencing industry, that gives us like a unique perspective on how people are actually adopting technology, using technology to solve their problems. I would like to look at it in three ways. One, from device standpoint, as Claudia was talking about, portal type of devices that people have come up with. That's an innovation as a result of different way of working that people have adopted, right? Like, so based on the needs of the users, like the device manufacturers are coming up with the different types of devices to solve the problem that's around the device. So as a company that is looking to kind of better the experience for their employees, are carefully designing their strategies around what type of devices to provide to their employees and what kind of management and security are needed around those devices for personal use or for the office use. The next thing that comes to my mind is network and connectivity. It's very much important. Just the device is not enough, but how do you kind of connect to a stable, reliable network is very much important for a video meeting to be successful or for any type of collaboration to be successful. So the strategy around the network and the partners they choose to go with. And the last thing that comes to my mind is companies have also carefully chosen apps or the tools for these needs. When I say apps and tools, like for example, it could be tools for their video meeting, tools that are secured, as you said, feels inclusive. It's kind of providing equitable participation for people at home, in the office, or on the mode, maybe on their mobile devices, right? So not just that, the last and most important thing is tools that have highest accessibility standards as well, because now you have to operate or access the devices and the tools to kind of engage with your peers or subordinates in the office. And it's important so we take everyone along with us through practicing highest accessibility standards that we do at BlueJeans today. So these are the things that some of our customers have adopted that we have seen during the hybrid environment.
Great. Thank you so much, MB. Rishi, I would like to, the audience to benefit from your experience of working with different types of customers and helping them in different ways and forms. What are the different technologies and strategies that you have seen some of your customers deploying and becoming a lot more prevalent, and where do you see this going?
Great question. So, there are, I'll say three main strategies basically, which we see like, organization are following, which is revolving around people, which is revolving around processes, which are being followed in the enterprise, and, definitely the places, When I talk about people, right, employee first kind of strategies are being talked about. They are in main focus. Earlier, we were looking, customer relationship management related platforms. Now we are talking about employee experience management related platforms, which are being launched basically, right? That are more focused towards how we can manage our workforce better, how we can, enhance the experience, which our employees are getting basically staying with the organization, how we can improve the talent, which is there within the organization, right? How we can train them better, train them faster, basically, so that the gap which is going to be there in the talent pool, basically, as per one study, which is there, 41% of the current workforce would transition basically, right? So how we are going to build up that gap, which would be there basically, right, is what companies are focusing. Human capital management related solutions are getting a lot of investment, be it creating simple applications to manage the vaccination record related things basically, or applicant tracking systems, which will help to bridge or identify the right kind of talent basically, which is required for the organization. Those kind of platforms are getting a lot of focus and investment from the customer. This is one of the thing which we are seeing. Safety of the employees is another important aspect basically, right? And how you are going to make your environment safe when this hybrid culture will or model will kick in. So a lot of companies are focusing on that, so that the social distancing aspect, which needs to be taken care of, can be implemented. Harman has developed some of the solutions, which are pretty helpful for the enterprise environments. Aquila is one of similar kind of a solution which will help organization to keep their employees safe in the office environment. Second aspect which is related is processes. How we are going to improve the processes basically, how we are going to make the information available to the employees in a more efficient manner. That is another aspect which is getting a lot of focus. The frontline workers which are remote are not connected. At least 70% of the workforce which is there, which is remote, which is dealing with the front lines, are not connected with the enterprise systems, right? So if we connect them, this will definitely help the bottom lines basically of the organizations. That is what is getting huge focus basically, right? One of the instance which Dave was talking about for an airline organization or an airline customer which we served recently is related to that. We connected the frontline workers with the Teams-based solution, which helped improve the productivity and customer satisfaction. That is one of the example which I wanted to quote. Then another process-related aspect is lot of stuff is not digitized currently, right? So if we digitize and do things which will help to improve the productivity, improve the timelines basically with which that process can be completed, will help the enterprise and customers basically a lot. Last but not the least, the places. So companies are looking at building hoteling kind of solutions basically, so that once this hybrid model kicks in, not everyone would be coming. They will not be having a fixed seat allocated anymore. So how we can make that experience, workable for the employees, so that they can book the, office space for the day which they will be going into the office, and connecting it with, IoTs and IoT sensors and, a lot of digital twins related stuff basically, or maps, basically indoor maps, which can be integrated, will help organization to plan things better. And further, going forward, these things can be integrated with the facility management system, so that the staff can sanitize those areas, and solutions like these will be coming into picture, and we clearly see a lot of investment coming into the reality basically for these kind of solutions. That's what I just wanted.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Rishi. I mean, those are very different and interesting anecdotes that you provided. Thank you for that. Fred, you spoke about your work on helping get all your employees on a digital workplace model. I think for Just to imagine the kind of scale of investment that would be needed for that, I think it's very hard for normal folks to imagine. So I want to look at one of the interesting questions for you, right? So when you talk about these, deploying these digital workplace solutions, what kind of technologies are you seeing that the companies are investing in? It could be new technologies or some old ones which seem to be a lot more robust. Just talk us through some of that tech landscape in implementing these digital workplace solutions.
Oh, good question. I think there are even multiple levels to this question. I think the first one is covering the basics, covering the foundation, ensuring that people can connect seamlessly, easily, all together. That people that are not coming to the office can get their device, whether it's a laptop, a mobile, a portal, without coming in the office, getting the laptop, and doing this kind of stuff. So I think all this to me is really the basics, and I think that all the vendors have improved even during the pandemics, all aspects of their solution to help companies to get faster in this deployment. To me, it's really about the cloud. You want people to reach out to SaaS applications. You want to implement things like zero trust. You don't want to rely on the fact that somebody is part of a network to give him access to something. You want to ensure that people that are working from home, from a Starbucks, from wherever, can access some data because they are who they are and because they own a device that you trust. You need to work on what I was describing for the laptop, the zero-touch config, where people can basically even buy a laptop in a supermarket and be able to work for the company with this laptop. But to me, this one are really basics, and it's almost, I would say, something that we already know. We know we probably need to do it better and so on, but that's something we know. There is all the other part, which is to me the uncharted area. Okay, mainly because that's totally new. We are all working in the office, and it was more or less working. Then we were forced to work, all of us, from home, and we learned how to do it. And now we need to learn how to work with some people in the office, some people at home, but when they're at home, perhaps they need to take care of the kids, and they won't be available from 9 to 10, whatever. So we need to relearn all that stuff. We need to basically change the way we are working from a way that was synchronous. Like starting a new project and everybody is in the same room, whether it's a virtual one or a physical one or several physical ones. We are all at the same place at the same time. We need to rework that into an asynchronous mode where you can work when it's the best moment for you to work, and you can consume content when it's the best moment for you to work. And that's something which is not, I would say, not that easy to do. A lot of companies have already done that. I remember perhaps in 2015 already GitHub explaining that everything was in the chat room. Even if people were in the same room, all the discussion were in the chat room. Why? Because then they can leave to another country, restart the laptop, and look at in the chat room what happened, and they knew what was what was happening. So to me, that's really this part which is really bubbling this day. You can see a lot of new solutions that are coming. A new solution that are also integrating IA to ensure not to make you more productive, but to check how you are feeling with the tool that we are giving to people. Are people happy to use this tool? Is it simple for them to use them? Are they feeling nervous? There are a lot of people that are feeling super nervous being in a Zoom meeting because everybody is basically looking at you at this moment when you are talking. When you are in an office, when you are talking, people were looking at you. There, they can look at you even when you are not talking. So some people are nervous about that. And I think that, and again, that's part of the people stuff, but we need to take care of this part. And you can see in a lot of the startups that are emerging these days that you have much more of this EQ part, which is coming in the tooling. So the basics we know, and there are a lot of super good resources on how to implement all this stuff. All the other one we'll have to basically play and test and try what's working, what's not working.
Very interesting points you made there, Fred. So synchronous to asynchronous, and not just technology, but also the emotional quotient needed to deal with all of this. Great. Thank you for those points. Munay, I would like to come to you, right? So again, from a tech aspect, what are the different things that you are seeing deployed, and where is it headed?
No, I think it's, as everybody's talked about, this new hybrid model, right? I think we're all working towards this new, work where you can. But, if you kind of wind the clock back, when say March or when the pandemic hit and everybody was like, forced to work, like Fred said, back at home. Like he said, the base was, how do I get a digital workspace that's seamless so I can work from, that is the foundation. Can I have the same workspace that I experience at work also at my home, which is a very basic foundation required. But what's also happened from the back end infrastructure, if you just step back and look at it, because I saw this movie play out and us helping out. I know within 5 days of the pandemic hit and everybody asked to go home, we had 3,000 inbound inquiries from airlines, healthcare, education, everybody asking us for help to say, everybody, if you just step back and look at the infrastructure deployment, everybody has huge campuses. I think, Facebook campus or Seattle, they have huge network pipe bandwidth that is stuck, assigned, pre-configured for this pipeline, which is doing diddly squat right now. And then, I live close to the VMware campus here in Palo Alto, and same thing, the home network is not that up to speed. So people were forced to suddenly think, how do I dynamically reconfigure my network capacity, which is now sitting idle in big campus locations, and my home networks are getting stressed because I don't have enough capacity. So if you think about delivering that workspace experience in the back end, people had to start thinking creative about reconfiguring and dynamically changing around network capacity, because now suddenly in my house, I got 2 daughters and my wife, 4 of us, kids are at school, all of them are running online sessions. It wasn't like 9 to 5, we're at school at work, we come back, and in the evening we're doing a bit of email. Now this is the primary home concern. So suddenly network capacity shifted from big campuses towards home networks. How do I redeploy capacity? Second, where we had everybody coming to a campus and a security posture. This could be firewalls, all of that. We're very secure. Now you're exposed at the limit of a home security, which you didn't think about too much. So how do I take security posture, move it towards the edge, towards the home? How do I take network capacity and redeploy it dynamically? Became a huge challenge, right? What we're delivering is still the workspace experience, but that workspace experience is going to suck if I don't have enough capacity. And that workspace experience is going to be compromised from an enterprise perspective if it's not secure, because suddenly in my home network, I have access to all my corporate information that wasn't probably there in the past. So these were interesting challenges that we went through to say, okay, and now most of the applications are hairpinned back into a data center or back into a cloud. How do I start moving network services, security services, compute services, all closer to the edge for us to activate this? We've seen in the last 15 months this evolution change go from everything centralized in either in a data center or in a cloud model, go towards the edge to provide network security, compute, a workspace, user experience, productivity towards the edge. And that's kind of a massive investment shift. Now, yes, it's going to be in a hybrid model, but this capacity then has to be more dynamically provisioned rather than statically provisioned. So it's a massive change in the back end technologies we got to invest into, and how this fluidly moves around away from static provisioned environments.
Interesting. Mune, I really liked how you described this. It was almost like a Netflix thriller, especially on the moving the bandwidth and provisioning network in different areas and security posture. Thank you. I think those are some really, really good points. Dave, I would quickly like your take on the same question as well.
Sure, absolutely. And it's interesting. Some companies found their pipes weren't being used. Other companies had backhauled all their traffic back to their corporate offices. And when everybody went home, it saturated the pipe. So we had to help people re-architect their networks and think about what should be brought through that pipe and what shouldn't be. And Teams architecture, for example, you don't need to bring the media backhauled, and it runs securely still at the same time, signaling and other things you might bring through. So it's important to really have the right architecture. The other thing is the right devices. All of our cameras in these meeting rooms in past, for the 7.8% that do have video, it'd be one camera on the room, and you get somebody sitting at the back of the room and they're this big and you can't see them. And now we've got intelligent cameras coming out. Logitech just released, or is in the process of releasing one. I was in a meeting earlier today, and 3 people in the same room were on 3 different videos. It was like they each had their own camera, even though it was one camera at the front of the room that was using AI to split that into 3 separate videos. So they were looking like people on the call. It was very interesting and a different participation. The other thing that we're doing is we're enabling spatial audio. If we sit in a room together, I hear someone coming from here and I hear someone else coming from here and someone else dead center. For the last couple of years, everything's been center speaker. And that's not how we're used to digesting information as humans. We hear it coming from different places. Those signals help us. And now we're seeing intelligent speakers coming out. What's an intelligent speaker? It can recognize who's speaking, even if we're in the same room. And it can start to so when I see a transcript of that meeting, I can see who spoke it, even though they were in the same place. It's not like I know it's Siddhant speaking when you speak because you're coming through one feed. No, we're all in the same room and the speaker can actually separate us and transcribe. So I think we're seeing more collaborative, more holistic solutions here. We're also doing some new things with layouts. We're moving video so you can have it at the top or you can have it at the bottom. So you might have it across and then have projection up across everything. And now the people that are in the room are looking at people at eye level on that same screen, as opposed to looking up to them and having a very different, weird view of them. So we're starting to look at just the different ways people interact. And even finally, I have with me here I don't know what year it is. I'm going to say 1970 whiteboard over here. This is like low tech marker, eraser. Well, we've got these web content cameras. You take a Logitech Brio, point it at that, we'll de-skew it automatically. And when the person steps in front to write, we'll let you see through them. So they're not blocking what's on the whiteboard. And now I can use that at home. I can use that in the office. And so now everybody can participate using state-of-the-art digital whiteboards like a Surface Hub or good old-fashioned, staple that we're all used to using. So it's a combination of bringing all of that into the workspace and then digitizing it. You can shoot a picture of that and then paste it into your digital whiteboard and edit everything as if you had originated it in the digital whiteboard as a pen stroke. It's very, very cool technology and the coolest part is it disappears. The tech disappears when it's really good. You don't think about it. You just do what you're trying to do.
Great, Dave. And if what Munay was saying was like a thriller, the story you portrayed was like a sci-fi movie. So just sticking to that, I will move to Claudia because she works on some of those sci-fi technologies. Claudia, where do you see the future of augmented reality, virtual reality? We've been talking about that for a long time. In the context of digital workplaces, where do you see it heading?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because I live kind of in both worlds, right? So Portal for us is a manifestation of a great communication device. And it does have some of those features that Dave was talking about, which is what kind of makes it magical in the example he gave of speaking to, I think it was his mom in Manitoba. So, you feel like the screen disappears when you're speaking to your loved ones, someone very far away because of that natural experience with the way the camera and the audio works on Portal. But that's really just, in my opinion, it's important because it solves communication problems. How do we communicate with one another and stay close and connected as people when we're not in the same room, in the same place, right? So communication is really important. But then you think about collaboration. And I think what I see is that virtual reality is almost magical when it comes to collaboration. When you put a virtual reality headset on and you are in a meeting and you're actually doing something, you're designing a product, you're brainstorming, you're having a workshop, and you feel physically present in that interaction, that's collaboration, right? And it, as I said earlier, it has to be authentic. And in 2020, everyone sort of focused on collaboration as a use case. And I'm sort of here to say collaboration is not a use case, right? Everything that we do has to be collaborative, especially in this new world. And so in virtual reality, what we're seeing is in our ecosystem, I work with a lot of partners. And so we have some amazing companies, you may or may not have heard of them, companies like Arthur and Spatial, who are reinventing, if you will, these collaboration experiences in virtual reality. They are thinking about collaboration as a, if you will, a feature within their experience, not necessarily the use case itself. So everything we do in all the immersive experiences has to be collaborative now, whether you're developing a training application to train people, whether you're improving a workflow, a 3D workflow, you're designing a building and you're an architect, or whether you're in a meeting and you are designing a product. It doesn't matter. Everything sort of, you have to think about it, collaboration first. And that's what virtual reality is really making possible. And I think as we sort of look forward beyond that into augmented reality, you put the two together and you're really getting in this mixed reality world, not even use cases, but experiences that we're not even thinking about right now, that we don't believe is possible quite yet. But they will be possible once we put these technologies together. And I think we have to think about it beyond the use case itself and think about what is that experience? What are we trying to do to solve these problems that we didn't know we had 2 years ago?
Perfect. Thank you, Claudia. MB, quick take from your side on this point in terms of the virtual reality and mixed reality experience. You're on mute, MB.
Yeah. So just extending where Claudia left. So the first reason I think we are seeing evolution in this technology is the users and the organizations are realizing the benefits of virtual reality and augmented reality for their use cases, right? That's the first reason. Earlier, AR and VR were just associated with, say, gaming or to some extent education, but not anymore. Like the manufacturing industry or the retail industry, all these industries are realizing that, hey, the same technology can be used for our use cases as well. And then comes the application developers such as us, like say Blue Jeans that has developed application for some of these devices. What we do is we leverage the capabilities of these devices and also the server-side capabilities like the edge compute, like putting Blue Jeans server at the edge, leveraging benefits of low latency, high compute power to deliver same kind of experience even in this virtual environment where some of these devices don't have like great connectivity or the compute power, basically offloading the compute power to edge and still providing the immersive experience for the users. So some of these reasons, like the contribution of the developer community or the application developers, and also evolution of this device capabilities are contributing to this more immersive experience in the virtual workspace world.
Got it. Just one more quick point, and I'll get Fred in on this one. From just being secondary devices like we discussed to more of the new age collaboration, digital workplace kind of environments. And I think Dave also hinted on, almost like unified communication platforms. So Fred, what do you think makes for a very successful deployment of something like a unified communication platform?
To me, first, it's choosing the right tool for your company. I mean, there is not only one. And even, for example, in our case, we are not using only one because there are some edge cases, I would say, or some specific cases. But you want to have this platform and you want to have it simple. I mean, people, and that's more or less what Dave was saying with the portal. We need to have a platform which is simple for people to use. And then it's basically shifting, ensuring that your leadership is actively using. This is what we have done. I mean, it was in between got easy with the pandemics because I mean that you had no other way to really communicate with people. But still, what we have seen that we moved our leaders using Teams a lot, using live events, and this is basically what helped all the company to have this view directly from the leadership and to interact with the leadership. Somehow, it makes them much more reachable. Okay, so the moment you start having your leadership using it actively, you are starting to draw people there. Because think about it, when you are in Zoom, everybody has the same square video. You know, there is not this specific position on a table or something like that. We are almost all equal there. So it was something like people feel closer to the leadership. And there are also the things like Yammer, for example, that we are using that help us a lot on this idea of moving from just discussing with people in an office or sending mails to something which was a little bit more asynchronous, a little bit more inclusive as well. And to me, that's also what helped people. We have a lot of different sites, but you know, we were having from time to time this syndrome where you have meetings with a lot of people and you have 10 people in a room, 2 people on the video from home or from their meeting room, and then the discussion start happening between the 10 in the same room, and you forgot people there. When everybody is on Zoom or Teams, I mean, it's much more inclusive because you are hearing, and then it makes that the people that were inside that were considered as remote have the same level or the same saying as the other. Basically, we are removing the visibility parts that we were having, issue challenge that we are having, into something where everybody can be visible, and then you start more talking about the impact of people. So to me, it's really showing the example and really having your leaders using actively to communicate this platform, and people will start moving.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Fred. Dave, your quick comments on this part.
Yes. So for a successful launch, I think it has to be more than just about what we're doing right now. It has to be the flow of work. I know several people have talked about people and process, and I think it's key to keep people in the flow of work. If all we've done is swapped email for an interactive chat, we've done little. We've done nothing. So for us, it's all about bringing that flow of work before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting. How do we get things done together? As Claudia rightly said, collaboration is why we work together. Otherwise, we'd be all independent contractors and doing our own thing and working independently. So I think it's about helping people really get in the moment, get in the zone, stay in the flow of work. And for us, that means collaboration apps. It means apps in a meeting. It means fluid components that live beyond the meeting. I don't have to go hunting for anything. If I know we met and we were talking about something, it's all together as a unit. I have all that information there. So it becomes something I don't think about. I just think about the action that I went through, the outcome that I'm after, and now the tool is serving me as opposed to me having to think about which tool when and being overwhelmed by that.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Munay, I will come to you on one of the pertinent questions around this space, and you kind of hinted at this when in your previous reply on the security portion of this, right? And we all know in the home environment there's a lot more threat, etc. But what are some of the initiatives that you have taken, that companies are taking to ensure this environment is a lot more secure in terms of a digital workplace?
No, I think it's, as we said, like, hey, reprovisioning network capacity, reprovisioning, security to the edge. So, from a, VMware perspective, we've always obviously had different kind of technology components. Now we kind of brought to market Anywhere Workspace that first delivers on the workspace platform, But with that comes software-defined wide area network, SD-WAN. So you can actually do, you don't have to hairpin traffic. If you're actually accessing SaaS applications from the cloud, you don't have to hairpin back into your data center and go back into the cloud. You can directly access cloud services from the home and, drive efficiencies. We've seen, so we brought the Anywhere Workspace solution, deliver workspace, but in the back end have software-defined wide area network to optimize network with, secure services at the edge. So SASE services from firewalls to, all of them at the edge with endpoint detection and response. So we, from our Carbon Black portfolio, we deliver that for all types of machines, both, be it PCs, mobile phones, laptops, all of them together. So we had to think through where we were able to do this for corporate locations. We had to then push them out to the edge to, lay the foundation with, our workspace solutions, which are pretty, widely adopted, but not just, deliver a workspace. How do we deliver on top of that workspace, zero trust security? How do we give optimized WAN connections? How do we provide cloud native endpoint protection for home, machines? So delivering, a secure distributed edge with multimodal employee experiences and a fully automated workspace, because it's not just about, delivering this and, going, oh, everything is going to work. You also need to manage this remotely, because it's not just the employees are working remotely, the IT staff supporting them are also working remotely, right? So you need to be able to provide full automation of deployment of those workspaces and experiences, give a multimodal experience that is seamless, and then have a very distributed architecture. So everybody had to, pivot the architecture to be very data center or cloud-based, to be more distributed edge-based. And that with that came moving of assets, technology, security, compute, and all of those services closer and closer, rather than being centralized in a cloud model or a data center model. That kind of changed architecture, because we all want to perform and give the best experience. Now, newer use cases like, I think Claudia mentioned AR, VR. What are they generating? They're generating a lot of data. Where's that data going? The data needs to be processed in real time at the edge. They don't have time latency fabrics enough to be processed back somewhere. So they are all real time, because if you have a AR, VR in a factory floor in a manufacturing environment, and people are doing this in real time, and there is, God forbid, a couple of seconds delay, then they could be, dropping pallets of warehousing. So it has to be real time, not even in real time. So for all of that to be super effective, and you have to think about how is then, the entire energy moving towards the edge, which is how do we, rechange our architecture models to be more distributed and real time. And that requires and full zero trust, because again, we're not hiding behind data center protection firewalls or cloud-based firewalls. You actually have to have edge-based firewalls that are at the user level, at the endpoint level, at the site level. So which is a very different framework to what client-server architectures or cloud-native architectures are built for. And we call it edge-native solutions and edge-native applications and edge-native architectures, which are fundamentally very distributed. So where the pendulum shifts in the industry from centralized compute, mainframes, to distributed compute, client-server architectures, to public cloud, centralized compute. Now we're back to the distributed architecture where every time the pendulum swings, there's more and more Moore's law, compute capacity, security requirements, rigidity in that kind of model, and it's exponentially going. It's an interesting aspect, and I think as we come into this hybrid work environment, those new types of application and collaboration is just driving more data at the edge, and how do we get it processed in real time? Because if it's super delayed, that experience will suck. And nobody will adopt it. Everybody will be back in the office, right? Because it's just a poor performing experience. And I think, video conferencing has been there for maybe going back to my research days. I know AT&T from 1970s, but the amount of adoption, I know Dave said it's very low, but definitely there was a hockey stick through this pandemic, right? There was no necessity. It was just a nice to have. Now it become a necessity. And I think that's really what's driving the adoption rates. And I think we need to have the architectures, the infrastructure, the security posture, the connectivity in order to pull it off. Because if that goes down, then you're back in the office.
Great. Thank you, Munay. I think we just have a couple of minutes left, so I'll kind of modify a little. I want to bring in, we'd had some really good questions from the audience. I want to pick one of them, which is actually very pertinent to the discussion, and I would like to get Claudia's opinion on this. So there are a lot of times the employee feels that there are a lot of these technologies, etc. But how does somebody humanize these technologies, right? How do we make it a lot more person first and technology second, per se? And I know you have been doing some brilliant work on this, Claudia. So I would want you to share your perspective with the audience on this one. And then after that, I'll just come to Rishi and I'll try and close this.
Yes. So I think, I touched about it a little bit throughout our discussion. I think it really is important to think about the authenticity of the experiences, putting people first. And I think Dave was responding to one of the chat questions and kind of hit the nail on the head. You have to design with this in mind. Like everything has to be designed with people first, people-centric, human-centric experiences. Our expression of that is thinking about developing this true sense of presence, right? And so, when we launched Portal, we talked a lot about the feeling of being there in the same room with your loved ones, even when you're not. And it's true in the work environment. We've spent a lot of time talking about this ideal of notion of everyone should feel equally present, right? And equally sort of connected as they're communicating and collaborating, regardless of where they are. And, clearly there's a lot of complexity in solving these problems and making this experience real. But I think it starts with designing the experience, thinking about the technology from that people first, that sense of presence as a principle, as a guiding principle. And one of my roles is to be able to actually advocate for this with our ecosystem. So it's not, obviously the ecosystem is really key here. It's not about just the technology we design, the products we deliver. It's truly about these experiences that are created by the application developers that are bringing to life this vision. And I believe that right now they're more important than ever to solving this problem and making it real.
Perfect. Thank you, Claudia. I know we are a little over. I'll just take my last question. Rishi, I would like to bring you in and you can, that would be the last one that we take. We've talked about different things that enterprises are trying to do in terms of best practices and also how they're trying to reimagine the future. And there are many questions that enterprises need to ask themselves, especially now that, it's moving from completely home to hybrid to somewhere in the middle on the office side. Where do you think, or what are the biggest questions that companies need to answer as they move forward in reimagining this entire work model, maybe almost like all over again?
So a few aspects, which we need to take care of. Whatever strategies which we are making, is this, accepted or coming from the employees? Do we have buy-ins in place, before we implement any kind of strategy, right? So what I look forward is, there should be more polling applications, survey applications, basically, which would be specifically for the enterprises, which would be brought into the picture, so that, simple surveys, joint decision making, inclusive decision making can be brought onto the table, number one. Number second, when we talk about transitions, are we ready for it, right? Culturally as well as infrastructurally, those are the things organization needs to decide, how they are going to strategize these aspects in coming future, So we need to take care of the stress which employees are already going through, or they might be going through when they will be working in this kind of environment, So all those aspects needs to be brought onto the table. Sentimental analysis related aspects needs to be taken care of. We will have to use lot of AI-enabled decision making in the enterprise environment, so that these kind of things can be looked upon from a greater detail, and right kind of strategies could be made for the employees and for the enterprises basically.
Got it. Perfect. Great. I think I've been getting a lot of nudges from my team. So great. I think this has been a really, really exciting panel. We touched everything from technology to human behavior to corporate ethics and human values. I think this has been one of the most enriching 1.5 hours in a very long time that I've spent. I know we could have just gone on, and I still regret not coming to some of you for a few of the interesting questions that we had planned. I'm sure we can interact again on different platforms, and I hope the audience has had a enriching experience just as I did. So I'll just hand it back to Jamila to take this over and then close the session.